Oladipupo. Oladipupo is an award-winning disruptor at the intersection of technology and education. He is co-founder and CEO of AfriLearn, an edtech startup that actively integrates genius tutors, animators, and developers to provide affordable, world-class education to Africans anywhere. Isaac holds a master's degree in public and international affairs from the University of Lagos and an e-learning certification from Harvard and a product management certificate from Product School, USA. Passionate about leveraging technology to drive change, Isaac started out in 2009 as the youngest journalist at Genevieve magazine, after which he created TopNiger.ng, now widely regarded as Nigeria's top youth platform. He is the pioneer head of new media at international non-profit Daystar, where he crafted blueprint documents, led creative teams, verified and grew online following from about 30,000 to over 500,000 in 3 years, winning an ALDA Consulting Award. He has since consulted for Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. In May 2019, Isaac left Daystar to co-found AfriLearn. In June 2020, out of 668 applications for the Netherlands Orange Corners Incubation, Isaac emerged top 3, winning the Business Innovation Fund for AfriLearn. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic and school closure across Nigeria, on April 5, 2020, AfriLearn launched its prototype, a disruptive e-learning platform that provides complete primary and secondary education content online. The platform has since reached over 237,601 learners, with thousands of users achieving improved learning outcomes. AfriLearn has been listed #1 basic education platform in Nigeria, with 12,000 plus active users and growing fast. In November 2020, to help people prepare for local and international exams for free, AfriLearn released the viral Example app and web, which instantly took #2 trending education app rank on Google Play Store, with overwhelming feedback. In December 2020, AfriLearn was awarded Digital Innovation of the Year Award by the US Chamber of Commerce, Top Innovations for Education in Africa by the African Union, and Changemaker Innovation of the Year 2021 by ECT Foundation. Awarded Africa's 35 under 35 leading young changemakers and nominated as a World Economic Forum Young Global Leader in June 2021, Isaac has dedicated his professional life to solving Africa's educational challenges. Let's make welcome Isaac Oladipupo.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Welcome, sir.
Well, thank you so much. First and foremost, I want to say a huge thank you, Adora, for convening this very timely, very powerful and very innovative session. I think this is what the federal government ought to do, that you are standing in and stepping up to do. Thank you so very much. It's such an incredible value to the to Africa's education sector. And I hope that it would be available online for the benefit of others after this session afterwards, because I see we've also had a very fantastic lineup of speakers. I heard John a little about John's session, and man, couldn't have been more apt. Fantastic session. Well done. And of course, it's my pleasure to be here today, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I know we've been here all day, so I'll try to make it as short as possible, and I'll try to go straight to the point. The truth of the matter is that, see, we are living in a very interesting times, and right now we're actually currently navigating the most phenomenal disruption in the technology sector. We are living in a time where every single sector is being radically disrupted. As a matter of fact, we are currently navigating the single biggest communication shifts of the last 500 years. It is so monumental. It is leaving every industry radically disrupted, including education. And that's exactly why we're here, right? So I'm basically going to start, of course. Like I said, I'll try and make this as short as possible. Might not even use up to the time I was allotted. I understand I have 40 minutes thereabouts, right? Because I like to just be a little engaging towards the end, so we can take some questions and answers. So teaching in a digital age. When I saw that topic, the first question I was asking myself is, I've never been a teacher, so why am I tasked? I love technology, and I think one of the one of the most interesting mysteries, I've found is the power that technology carries, to actually transform education radically, across board, and I'll start with my story, how, what education has done for me and what I've seen it done, what I've seen it do in people's lives across board, both in Nigeria and even beyond, so yeah, short story. I was actually born, I grew up in a well, being born and growing up are different things, right? I was actually born, when people say they are born with a silver spoon, I happen to be one of those people, born with a silver spoon. Dad was very, very boxed up, at least to a large extent, I grew up seeing, I grew up seeing my family were just two. I'm the younger one. I have an elder brother. We're just two. So basically, I grew up seeing my family live really well. Really comfortable. And of course, from what I can remember, we had at least 10 different vehicles. Brand new vehicles that conveyed us. We had drivers and all of that. You know. But to cut this story really short, along the line, of course, that silver spoon was snatched when my dad was retrenched. My dad was suddenly retrenched, from his place of work. He used to lead, then he worked for a company called Nigerite. And Nigerite was more or less like the Dangote of today, so they made building materials and all of those things, so then we're staying in Kwara State, and all of a sudden things just went down. And of course, when you lose your job, what you do as a person is you go and get another job, but as at that time, for whatever reason, my dad basically just gave up on life. Fantastic dad, by the way, so my mom had to step up her game, became the breadwinner of the family, and then we had to move from attending some of the best schools, to attending the school that we could afford. You understand, and that was when I started to realize how how life can play out. So that tomorrow, I mean, yesterday you could be in the best place in the world, and today, so of course, things unfolded really fast, but gratefully for my mom, and I'd also say my dad also, because it was for supportive. It's just that it was not able anymore to fend for the family financially. So mom stepped up. Mom had to take up jobs, different jobs. She became a contractor overnight. And she did incredibly well. Of course, we couldn't attend the best schools, but we attended quality schools. I mean, courtesy mom with that support, of course. So I remember, I mean, growing up, in a very local area, and I remember growing up with friends, and I remember going out to play football and all of that. And then eventually I left that neighborhood. But one thing was constant. Of course, we were never hungry. We didn't have the best of the best, but we were never hungry. And if the last thing my mom would do with the last money in her hands is to pay our school fees, she always ensured that was done, So of course I went to school. But guess what happened around me? Now, because we couldn't afford that fantastic lifestyle anymore, we had to move to Lagos. So my dad had, I mean, of course, we had a house in Lagos, thankfully that I built, when things were booming. So we moved there in a local environment, actually, a rural area called Alagbado in Lagos, Nigeria. Some of us may know that place, So why am I sharing this story? So I grew up alongside childhood friends that while all of this was happening, I was attending school. Now, despite the situation that we were in, which was from upscale, to average, I still saw people who didn't even attend school. The basic that was still able to attend, they couldn't attend. And these were now my friends. They were friends that when I was playing football, we played football together, So what then happened was I would take my bag in the morning and go to school, right? When I'm going to school, I see my friends hawking for their parents. When I'm coming back from school, I see my friends hawking for their parents. When we're playing football, I see some of my friends hawking for their parents. Now, not because their parents were so wicked, but because they just couldn't afford it. The only thing they could afford was ensure that they didn't go hungry, right? So that was where I grew up. That was where I grew up, But guess what? Eventually, I left that neighborhood. I went to stay with my grandma in Anthony Village, who had also a good, of course, very, very grounded in terms of values, So long story short, I was able to go through school. In fact, I did my WAEC once. I gained admission immediately, and I went to the uni. So to cut the long story short, education actually transformed my life, So the fact that my parents weren't very rich, right? But I was still able to, they were still able to afford me the basic education. Now, today, when I go back to that neighborhood, what I see breaks my heart, like renders me totally dejected. And what do I see? I see the same people that I grew up with, doing exactly what they used to do, on that same spot, over 3 decades ago. And why? If you ask me why, I can pinpoint the reason majorly to lack of education, sincerely, because I'm not smarter than them. The only difference was that, of course, irrespective of the circumstances, my parents still ensured that I got education, but they are unable to get education, right? So why am I saying this? The greatest resource need of the African continent right now is actually quality education. Quality education. That's the greatest resource need, because see, it is investment in knowledge that actually results extraordinary qualities. If you see people that are changing the world, there's Elon Musk now. Elon Musk is actually from Africa. It's an African that basically was able to move to the developed country. And because of that, he was able to leverage on opportunities there. Now he's the world's richest man. So there's nothing wrong with us as Africans. The only problem is that we are unable to get our children and our children's children to the point where they have the same advantage. Because see, if you are 15 years old, if you are 18 years old, there's nothing stopping you from being a president. Michael Dell of the Dell Corporation became president of Dell Corporation at the age of 18, and then he retired at the age of 40, having built that company to a world-class standard. Now, what's the difference? They have an education system that works, right? So, and that's exactly why we are here, right? Now, if you look at the transportation sector, I just want to quickly give this illustration before we then go into, because I'm sure some of us will be like, what does this have to do with teaching in the digital age, right? I'm coming. So if you look at transportation, decades and decades ago, you'd realize that the major source of transportation actually were animals. People use donkeys to go to places, and then now what do we use? We use cars, we use planes, etc. So you just close your eyes and imagine someone using donkey, to imagine someone trying to travel from Lagos to Abuja using a donkey, of course, you probably think something's wrong somewhere, right? Now, what has happened? When we were using donkeys, the truth of the matter is that it was very effective, because that was the best that was available that could deliver the result of moving someone. What's the goal of transportation? To move someone from one place to another. And as at that time, donkeys could do it effectively. Horses could do it effectively, right? Now, today, because of the pace of which the world has changed, donkeys, horses can't do it effectively anymore. So we have cars, we have motorcycles, we have airplanes, we have all those stuff, right? Now, the same thing has happened to education, okay? Before, it used to be the four walls, of course, within the four walls of the classroom, and you use chalk to teach and all of that, boring. The characteristics before then was, of course, it has to be within the four walls of the classroom. You have to be using a chalk. It has to be boring. As a matter of fact, I think that we've actually equated effective education to that. It has to be boring. Like, what makes education effective is that it must be boring. That's what education actually means, has come to mean in Africa. It has to be serious. If you're not serious, you can't, and those are all wrong, right? But guess what? The worst of it all is that it has to be one size fits all. So you have a teacher or a lecturer teaching everybody with the same way, in the same method, at the same time, at the same pace. So that has been what we are used to. And unfortunately, like the last person was saying, that is still what many schools do, even up until today, unfortunately. But guess what? That is no longer with effectiveness of teaching in a digital age, because why? The syllabus has changed, the world has moved. And what happens when you don't move is that, see, we can never stop the imminence of change. Change is constant. Change is inevitable, right? The same way donkeys used to be the effective means of transportation years ago, and now we now use vehicles, So imagine, I mean, like that's why I said, imagine someone saying that, insisting that I must use donkey to travel from Nigeria to New Brunswick, So it's no longer effective. The same thing has happened to education. So if we are still using the one size fits all, we are doing it wrong. Because why? Technology has come, Technology has come. So now how do we teach in the digital age? It's very, very different. It's very, very different. Now, with technology, technology has made possible one of the things that we have ignored for years. Now, what's this thing? It's called personalized learning. Personalized learning. Personalized learning. Unfortunately, we are not adapting as fast as we need to. So right now, we actually need a generation of catalysts that will take these issues into their hands. And that's why I'm excited about conferences like this, about gatherings like this. So as teachers, as schools, as parents, as ethics stakeholders, one of the critical things that we need to ensure is that we need to stay current with trends in the education technology sector. Because see, as human, not even just as educators, as human beings and as educators, we can't stop the imminence of change. Because see, when it is done right, change is actually a beautiful thing. Yes, for all of us as human beings, change is usually very hard. But the truth matter is that when you actually change, it is actually beautiful. And well, so 2 years ago, my friend Gabriel Olatunji Legend and I, we decided to risk our careers, to solve this problem. So we left our lucrative jobs and founded AfriLearn to democratize education for Africans. Because we found out that the only option that we have had for years, for decades, for centuries, right? And that we still mostly have, that the government still relies heavily on, is the method of brick and mortar. Now, is that wrong? No, it's not wrong. So what is the issue? The issue is that brick and mortar can't scale. See, if we go the route of brick and mortar system, it will take us centuries to educate the populace, whether in Nigeria or across Africa. And as a matter of fact, even at that, the government cannot afford it. The government can't afford it because the rate at which young people are growing, the rate at which our population, the young population is growing, is expanding, it is practically impossible. The government cannot afford it, right? So what does that say? Technology presents the best opportunity for us to actually make education, quality education, world-class education, radically affordable, So now, and that was why we founded AfriLearn, basically to aid teaching in a digital age. Now, how do we do this? Basically, so every day, we have studio. We built AfriLearn basically built studios. So every day, AfriLearn hosts some of the best teachers we can find across the country. So AfriLearn hosts these teachers in the library. And what happens is these teachers basically come into our libraries. The same way you see a Nollywood actor, act a movie. This time around, where we have teachers, very, very excellent teachers coming to our studios, and then they teach every single topic across every single subject, across the secondary school curriculum, in front of cameras, right? This is what I mean. So what you have in an average classroom is that you see a teacher teaching, right? But with the AfriLearn model, what happens is a teacher is teaching, but this time around, they are teaching in front of cameras. They are teaching comfortably. They are teaching smiling. They are teaching laughing. They are teaching with aims. And most importantly, they are teaching using storytelling methods. Because see, storytelling is one of the most powerful tools that we have ignored when it comes to teaching in the digital age, right? And guess what? It's actually one of the most engaging, most effective formulas to ensuring improved learning outcomes. And I'll get there. We've proven this and we've seen that it is very, very true, right? So these teachers basically teach every single subject in front of cameras. Now, it doesn't stop there. We then take these thousands of video lessons covering the entire subjects and topics across board. We take these thousands of video lessons and we develop them into animation. We have an animation department that then takes these video lessons and develop them into animation. Why? Such that at the end of the day, when a student is consuming our content, they are not just seeing a teacher teaching like they see in their normal classroom, but they're also seeing illustrations of what is being said or taught per time on the same screen. Why? Because this has proven incredibly effective to engendering improved learning outcomes in students, right? And then in addition to those video lessons covering the entire topic, we then also had practice questions and also the class notes, practice questions for all the competitive examinations and practice questions for all the classes, and then class notes, and lastly, audio lessons. So why do we put all this together? Because human beings are uniquely different. God has created us uniquely. Sorry? Okay. All right. So God has created us uniquely. Can we hear me though? I think I heard some noise.
Yes, we can. Sorry, it was someone's mic.
Okay. All right, great. All right. So now, because we are all created uniquely different, the truth of the matter is we do things differently. For instance, we love differently, even as humans. I'm sorry to digress a little. When if you are talking, when you're talking about relationships, there's something called love languages. Now, love languages simply means that there's a way a particular person loves to be loved or prefers to be loved, right? The way I prefer to be loved is different from the way that another person prefers to be loved. The same way, the way I learn best is different from the way another person learns best, right? But what we've done so far is we teach everybody the same way, meaning that we love everybody the same way. So what that means is that if I prefer, for instance, when you talk about the 4 love languages, we have physical touch, gifts, act of service, and one other one, right? So if, for instance, my love language is physical touch and you are loving me by sending me gifts, I won't be giving you what you are expecting, meaning that you won't be getting the returns of what you are giving out. And the same thing applies to learning. So for instance, what we have done at AFLA basically is that we have video lessons, class notes, practice tests, and also social learning. We have a social, and I'm going to get there anyway. I'm going to get there, So what then happens is that every child is able to learn using the exact method that is best suited for their learning style, for their learning preference, right? And this is exactly where we have gone wrong. That's one of the most fundamental things that we've gotten wrong in our classroom when it comes to teaching in a digital age, right? So we then take all of this content and then we make them available on our mobile app, for subscription on our mobile app and our web platforms, at a highly affordable rate. As a matter of fact, of course, this will be a first. We've not shared it officially, but this year we're going to make AfriLearn entirely free. It will be the first time in Africa that an e-learning platform, curriculum specific, actually will be described as the most comprehensive e-learning platform in Nigeria. It's going to be opened up for free. We're basically tying up those fronts with investors, partners, and all of that. So once everything makes sense, we're going to open AfriLearn up for free. And when I say for free, I'm talking about world-class content, trusted content created by experts, So what that simply means that, and that's, of course, that was the vision from start, because when it all started, it was basically about where I came from, how these friends of mine will have had access to education if only a platform like AfriLearn existed and was available for free. So the only excuse for failure for African students would then be that you actually didn't want to learn, not because the opportunity is not available, right? So back to where we were, right? So what we have what we have then done is to inculcate or bring fun into learning. Remember when I started, one of the issues with education in Africa is that we equate seriousness. Like if you're not serious, like if you're not frowning, children are not learning. But it's not true. Actually, learning is best when people are having fun, So secondly, every script that the teacher comes to the AfriLearn studio to actually present in front of cameras, they are actually storified, meaning that we take the class notes, the curriculum-specific class notes, and we turn them into scripts. What do I mean? So in a normal classroom, a teacher comes in and starts teaching, right? Now, that is also very wrong. Now, what we do is we take the normal class notes and we turn them into stories. So for instance, I want to teach photosynthesis. As a normal teacher, as an average teacher, I come into classroom and say, okay, photosynthesis is so and so, right? But for the AfriLearn model, what we do is we start with a story. a story that then connects you into the definition of photosynthesis, and then we take it from there, right? These are basic things that we need to infuse into learning in the digital age, right? And one of the interesting things about storytelling, I personally think that storytelling is the most underrated learning technique ever, because it's very, very powerful in driving conversations. It's just like where we are right now, I'm actually sharing a story. And I can bet that many people are listening because it is a personal story. It's a true story. It is my story, and I'm passionate about it. So because of that, you will never find me sharing it half-heartedly, because it's a story that connects to me. It's a story that has changed my life, and it is a story that has changed lives. So of course, storytelling, and then one of the reasons why technology is very important, and I'm also going to get there, is because it then helps us, which is one of the reasons why we actually started Affiliate. Now, if you were to start building schools across communities, it's going to take billions of dollars. Now, no government right now in Africa can afford that. But guess what? With technology, we are able to build one and scale it across board. So technology basically helps us to make education radically affordable, And of course, when Affiliate went live last year, finally went live last year, the incredible testimonials, like some of them, when I read them today, they pour in every day. Actually, whenever I go to the back end and read testimonials, at times I'm almost moved to tears, right? Because people actually want to learn, but they are looking for the platform that understands them. They are looking for teachers that understand them. And of course, if you are scared that, okay, so am I saying that technology will take away the job of teachers? No, not at all. I'm going to get there, right? But the testimonials and impacts have actually shown that we are onto something special, something extraordinary, something revolutionary. Because why? We're able to then deliver education at scale. People can learn anytime, anywhere. People can learn using the method that suits them. You can learn watching. So on Affiliate platform right now, you can learn watching a video lesson. If videos, because some children learn differently. Some learn best by watching videos. Some learn best through practice tests. Some learn best by social collaboration. And some learn best by just reading. So but what we've done so far in the past is that we just teach everybody the same way, and that is not a way to teach in a digital age. It's not going to be effective. It's not going to result in improved learning outcomes, right? And every single time a teaching session goes on and ends without the students, achieving the set goals, that teaching session has failed, right? So finally, so now we're in the digital age. So what is the solution to all the things that I've said? The solution really is to deploy the most effective methods to teaching in the digital age. And I've basically summarized those into 3, okay? And that's what I'm going to end this session with. Number 1, blended learning. Blended learning, See, the best experience actually that I've seen personally is the experience where the physical classroom is merged with technology, So, and that's why I said technology is not taking away the job of teachers, definitely. But technology is simply an opportunity for us to merge the experience, for us to leverage technology to actually make education more effective, So what does this entail? Blended learning simply is a situation where we are using technology and we're also using physical engagement, right? Personally, from our little experience so far, we found out that the best experience is in the case of blended learning, where you're not just relying on the teacher, but the teacher is also relying on technology to actually drive the most effective learning experiences. How do I mean? So since we launched AfriLearn, we have a lot of schools now that use AfriLearn. But I'm so sorry. I will have shown some slides, but because of where I am at time, right? You'll have been good to show some slides, but maybe I could send that across board anyway, eventually. So we've seen that in classrooms, for the schools that actually use AfriLearn, what we found out whenever they get back to us regarding their experiences, they say that they have more time to focus on being coaches and not just being teachers, not just shouting, not just imposing themselves on the students. That's so the future of learning is such that teachers become coaches as opposed to teachers doing all the job, as opposed to teachers doing all the talking from start to finish. Because actually, learning is not just about listening to somebody speak. Learning is actually about discovering things by yourself. The work of a teacher is supposed to guide you to discover what you should discover by yourself. you know. So it's in a situation where teachers will have to act more as coaches and not just as talkers, right? In that scenario, people are able to discover things. Children are able to discover their potentials. They're able to discover their strengths. They're able to discover their flair. They're able to discover their skills, by themselves with their peers, right? And then the second approach after blended learning, like I mentioned, three principles that have worked for us in actually teaching in the digital age. First, like I mentioned, it's blended learning, where you merge physical classroom with technology. And then teachers are able to act as coaches. Basically, the students are able to learn because the resources are available, and the work that the teachers only have to do, is help the students, in areas where they are struggling, or help the students in area where they need clarifications. So the second principle really is personalized learning. I've mentioned this before. Now, I'm sure some of us are used to browsing online, and then you realize that a particular advert is actually following you everywhere. When you go to a particular website, you see the same adverts. You go to another website, you see the same adverts. Now, how does this thing happen? It's personalization. And what we've seen so far is that organizations are spending, I will keep spending billions of dollars, on personalization. Right now, AfriLearn is working, we're in the process of working with the UNICEF on some personalization features on AfriLearn, right? But this is a big deal in the tech industry. And it's so big, yet so painful, because the education sector is not leveraging it. It's why when you get to, if for some of us that use Netflix, when you go on Netflix know you almost more than you know yourself. Netflix will recommend the next movie that you are most likely to love to you, without you even knowing that the movie is on the platform. Why are they doing that, and how are they doing that? Personalization, But in learning, what we want to do is teach every child rather, the same way. Teach children the same way, the same manner, the same style. It doesn't work. So we need to start learning how to leverage on personalization, personalized learning. So when you see those ads following you, it's because they've stored your data, they've stored your resources, they've stored your habits, and they are using it to recommend things. And over 90% of the time, it actually works, because what they send to you is, all those things, all those adverts they send to you are actually based on your habits, online, your habits on different platforms, So the algorithm basically stores that to detect your habits and then recommends products or contents to you accordingly, And it's why organizations like Amazon, like Netflix, are investing billions in personalization, because it is extremely effective in deciphering exactly, what is best suited for a particular individual based on their habits, and why? Because everybody is unique. Students are unique the same way. They have different goals. They learn at different pace, and they learn with different styles. So the fact that Adora is a faster learner does not necessarily make her better than Abiola. And the fact that Abiola learns gradually does not necessarily make her a dumb student. It just means that is the pace at which she learns, and these are things that we need to bring into the classroom when we are teaching in a digital age, right? And then the last thing is community, blended learning, personalized learning, and community. We need to start maximizing diversity, curiosity, the ability to share, to create, to communicate. Because guess what? Every single professional that we know today, they were once an amateur. That's the truth. They were once amateurs. Every single professional. Nobody started, nothing great, no expert started as an expert. They all started somewhere. So we all struggle with certain concepts when we start learning, right? But when we are learning in the midst of our peers, it actually engenders effectiveness. And studies have even shown that students and even teachers actually learn best from their peers. We learn best from our peers. Different studies actually have shown that students and teachers learn best from their peers. In fact, a classical case is I have a daughter, I have a 3-year-old daughter, and one of the things that never stops dazing me is are things that she say that I'm so sure I know that she didn't learn at home. She learns them from when she says them, when she does them, and of course, this is definitely from school, and most likely not even from a teacher. It's something she learned from a fellow student, and she learns them so fast. So we actually learn best from our peers than we learn best from people who are instructing us to do certain things. And that's why we need to be very big on community, building community within a classroom. It's a very effective tool to teaching in the digital age. We need the support, not only of instructors, but of fellow learners to know that we are not alone where we make mistakes, and imagine the revolution if universities and colleges deploy these things on scale, personalization, blended learning, community, because at the end of the day, technology is only a tool, and our goal really is to leverage it to transform the classroom to a highly engaging and highly effective environment. So I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure sharing.